Good evening, everyone. Welcome to COS Indiana Live. My name's Dale Parrish. I'm the virtual program coordinator for Convention of States here in Indiana. And with me this evening is my co-host, Mr. Ken Kashuba. Hi, Ken.
Good evening, Dale. How are you?
Good, good. Turn your volume up a little bit, or I have to turn mine up, one of the two.
Well, I'm up a little bit there. That should be better, I think.
Okay, that's better. That's better. That's better. Well, Ken is our state communications coordinator, and believe me, folks, Ken does a lot of things behind the scenes on this on our live stream, and plays a very, very valuable part. But one of his duties tonight during the broadcast is he will be monitoring the viewer comments and questions that you may have. So if you are viewing tonight through our Facebook page, Convention of States Indiana, or our YouTube channel, Indiana Patriots for Convention of States, feel free to submit a comment or a question, and we'll do our best to address it. So, Ken, tonight is broadcast number 243, and you've been on board for 107 of those. We're striving for that 250 mark, which we should hit in June, and we're going to try and do a special on our roundtable in June. So looking forward to creating a special broadcast for that. So number 250. I just want to mention one more time, we hit a record in the month of April for views. We hit 32,586 views. A previous record was 29,600. So we're very proud of that to hit that in April. 32,500. That's quite. We're striving to get to 40,000 in a particular month. So I think we're getting pretty close to it, Ken.
I think we're on the way. For sure.
Yeah. Ken, I want you to I want you to talk a bit about the QR code and what that represents. But I think you got a little something else you want to show us this evening, don't you?
Yeah, a little bit. We'll talk about the QR code real quick here. That obviously is the way to subscribe to COS Indiana Live. Get all the benefits of being a subscriber. And we certainly look forward to increasing our subscription amount of people that we have subscribed to the program. I will also post a link in the chat that you can do it with a URL as well. If you don't like working with QR codes, if you're like Dale and don't quite know what to do with a QR code, URL in the chat room, and you can get it that way for sure. Yeah.
You think there's someone else like me that has a problem with QR codes, or?
I think there's probably a few out there, Dale. You're not alone.
Okay. All right.
Not alone. But speaking of not being alone, that's a nice little segue into what I wanted to kind of kick off tonight's talk about or program about. And obviously we asked the question, what is a patriot? And I think we've all been talking about what this country needs, along with what we're doing at Convention of States. We need the younger generations to get on board. We really need the younger generations to join. Not only COS, but we need them to get a backbone and stand up for this country. And this is kind of what I'm sure a lot of people have seen this, but there might be a few people that didn't. And I just, over the past week or so, during all the things that went on, I was encouraged. We're always looking for something a little uplifting and something to give us a little bit of hope and faith. So I'm going to go ahead and just play this.
Ran over to hold it up in order for it to not touch the ground. People began throwing water bottles at us, rocks, sticks, calling us profane names. We stood for an hour defending the flag so many fight to protect.
And that was just a brief glimpse of what happened there at UNC. And I know there's other things that have happened across other college campuses, but Dale, it was good to see we have a generation of younger people that are saying, enough is enough, and we're going to defend our flag.
We need to see more of that. We need to see more of these. Yeah.
Sure do. Sure
I
do.
agree. I agree. Good. I'm glad you brought that to us tonight. So thank you very much.
Yep.
One thing that I've been trying to bring this on every broadcast that we do, and and that's the debt clock. Dealing with our national debt is one of the pillars of the Convention of States resolution. There are three pillars in that resolution, and one of them is for calling a convention of states for the purpose of amending the Constitution, proposing amendments to the Constitution. And one of those areas that we want to address is our national debt. Folks, we're closing in. If you look in the upper left-hand corner here, we're closing in on $35 trillion national debt. We timed this before, and about every 30 seconds, that debt number goes up by $1 million. So it's just something that we've got to, we can't lose sight of. This is something that's got to be addressed. And so we're going to stay on it. So I just want to show that to everyone as just a reminder that this is something that we need to address in this country. And it needs to be a priority. No doubt about it. Well, listen, tonight, our first guest is going to be our state director, Dale Tipton, and we want Dale to come on, kind of give us a summary of how things went in the month of April here in Convention of States. So without further ado, let's bring Dale on. Hello, Dale.
Greetings, gentlemen. How are you?
Oh, good. He called us gentlemen, Dale. Ken, he must be in a good mood this evening.
Trying to keep us in line, I think. Really,
is that what it is? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, as I said, this is Dale Tipton, our state director for Convention of States here in Indiana, and I wanted Dale to come on and give us a quick summary of what's the status of COS Indiana as of April. So you want to take it away, Dale?
Sure. As the weather's starting to warm up, we're starting to see people get just a little bit more active. We've had some block walkers out and about, and people are starting to schedule their gun shows and their community festivals and all those kind of things. Everybody's kind of shaking off the winter blahs here a little bit, I think. But as always, we get past those things and kind of start getting geared up. Interestingly enough, we're gearing up during an election year, which makes it just to put a little bit different spin on things. And so there's a lot of things happening. So you can fire up that first banner if you'd like. And
yeah.
So
these are some outstanding people, right?
That's right. We basically run action reports to basically document what we do in Convention of States. And the action reports do two things. They basically notify the leadership of activity that's going on in the state so we can kind of keep up with what's happening. And then secondly, all of these actions are collated and presented to donors. And whenever a donor asks, well, I'm going to give you X amount of dollars to Convention of States, but where's my money going? What are people actually doing? And so we want to be able to show that our people are truly activists, and they submit these things, an action report for a gun show, an action report for talking with their legislator, an action report for block walking, an action report for being involved in Patriot. All of the different things that we do get tallied in these action reports. And these folks here, Diane, David, and Greg, they were kind of the peak performers during the month of April. So we just wanted to recognize them.
I know Diane's been district captain for some time. Well, is she still in the role? I know she does different roles, but
yeah, she's still a district captain. Yeah.
But these other two, David and Greg, they're relatively new district captains, aren't they?
Yeah, especially David.
Okay.
But he's taken right off, and
Good.
the reins and is plowing ahead forward. So
That's what we need. That's great. That's
yeah,
great.
it's a great example to the other new district captains that are coming on.
Yeah. So how do we shape up total wise supporters?
Well, now this is the supporters number is obviously we're just right at the 70,000 mark we've talked about for a while. This is a combination of petition signers and other people that have supported us in various ways, maybe through financial contributions or other things. So this is the grand total, 69,928. Um, this is a number that continues to rise each month. Um, I think the only time it took a downturn was whenever they were doing some house cleaning with the database. And
Right.
so
Right.
that kind of set us back for a little bit, but all that's squared away now. So this should be a pretty true number. And
I
so
think
we're
that's
looking forward.
a pretty impressive number, quite honestly. I know there certainly are other states with larger supporter numbers, but we're right up there. I believe we're right up there.
Yeah, I think in the people that I go to meetings with, this is a pretty substantial number. You'll
Yeah.
see a lot of states that aren't close to this. So I
Yeah.
think we can be proud of the work that's been done here in Indiana to spread the word and make people aware of the Article 5 movement and what Convention of States is trying to do.
Yep. Yep. Well, okay. I think we already mentioned this, but I know you wanted to mention it again.
Yeah, I mean this is something that is kind of cutting edge territory, and I might defer to you or Ken to say, whenever 6 months ago we were maybe at 300 or 400, hits a month. What on earth has happened here? You guys care to explain that?
uh, well, Ken, you might want to chip in on this. I think it's technology. It's
Yeah, I'll relieve Dale of the technological.
It's not a QR code. I will say this.
QR code, but no, actually, our comms team has a lot of very good people on it, involved in our comms team, and Charlie, I'll have to give Charlie kudos for this. He's been involved on the social media side of things for quite some time, and realized that what we were doing was not putting out enough what they call shorts, as far as little clips of what we're doing on our program. And the shorts basically are those things that get picked up by the algorithms, and certainly the more the algorithms pick up on our stuff, the faster it gets viewed, and the views get picked up and are increasing rapidly because of what we're doing behind the scenes to be part of the social media algorithms, basically. So it's been wild to watch the numbers just grow based on what we're putting out in little clips, which people see a little piece of and say, wow, yeah, I'd like to see all of this, more of this, or and it basically increases our viewers by
Charlie Myers is the young man's name that Ken was referring to. So
I guess that's what happens when you get youth involved, right?
yeah, that's what they say. Yes, but we're still striving, and
Absolutely.
we're striving for that 40,000 mark and beyond, hopefully. But anyway, so thank you for mentioning that. So, what's coming up this Tuesday? Tomorrow, something going on?
Yeah, we've got our state primary election coming up on Tuesday. Early voting's been going on for the last 3 or 4 weeks. A lot of people have probably already been out there, but it's a good thing to go out and do. One thing that I found out, I was on the ballot this time for a precinct committeeman spot, and unless you have voted in the last 2 primary elections, you're not eligible to hold that position. And so there's a lot of things that hinge on primary voting that some people just kind of brush it off and they go, well, I'll vote whenever the national election takes place. I'm not interested in the primary. But the other thing is there's a number of critical races in the primary, and they're often won by a very small number of votes because the participation is so low. So this is an election where you can really make a difference individually, because sometimes a few votes is all it takes to get somebody over the edge.
Yeah. I know they were looking for poll workers here in our area. Haven't you worked in the polls before, Dale?
Yep. Yeah, I've done it a few times. I can't do it this time because I'm actually on the ballot, and they think somebody thinks that's a conflict of interest. I'm
You
not
think
sure
so?
why. So I'm happy to sit on the sidelines and see what happens. But
You
yeah,
haven't
that's
you haven't had a judge put a gag order on you, have you? Have you? Dave?
there's so much I could say, Ken, and I just
Well,
shouldn't.
you get in trouble. So I
Do you guys still have that StreamYard mute button that sits on Dale's desk? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's
Well,
an important thing to get out there, and plus it's our duty as citizens to vote. It's that basic.
of course, even though this is a primary, but it's still important. Still important. So, well, Dale, you want to wrap us up on
Well,
a topic about self-governance? Yep.
this is just a thought, but we're building into a presidential election in November. And a lot of people in the intelligence community are predicting that regardless of what happens in November, and it's likely to be a contested election, whatever happens, regardless of whose side comes out on top, it is estimated that the road is going to be quite rocky between election day and inauguration day, right? And so we don't know what kind of things might happen, but as people who are self-governed and who are, they have a single-mindedness to keep their family prepared and everything, it would be wise to pay attention to personal preparedness and being ready for things. I mean, it could be a power outage, it could be a cyber attack, it could be all kinds of things. But as you guys know, even a snowstorm can disrupt supply chains, and people go crazy. And you always see on the news, people run to the store and buy everything out in 2 or 3 days. It's good to be prepared. And so I'm just encouraging people as we move forward for that date, take a little time and get your ducks in a row, because we're not really sure what's going to happen, but we want to be prepared for whatever does. Hopefully things will go perfectly smooth, but with, the things that are happening with Hamas, and now they're talking about actually giving Hamas people asylum in the United States, a certain number of them. I mean, the doors are just being opened for all kinds of trouble. So
you're talking about the period from election day to inauguration. I'm thinking I'm more concerned about between now and election day, as to what could possibly happen. I think we're going to see some drastic stuff happening between now and then.
As I've made some comments about it before, but the threat matrix that is present in the United States is probably worse than it was prior to 9/11. I mean, whenever you look at the Hamas thing and all of the problems with Israel, and you talk about the open southern border, we've got no idea what kind of people are coming through there. I mean, it's estimated there's 20 to 30,000 single military-age Chinese males that have come across the border at Mexico. And
Yeah.
what are those guys? What are those guys doing?
Yeah.
They don't get permission to leave China unless there's a reason. I suppose they could have escaped somehow, but it would be an easier thing to think that they're sent here on some kind of a mission. Well, what would that be? What could 20 or 30,000 Chinese men do here if? China's our friend. Everybody knows that, and I'm sure they would mean us no harm. But
yeah. All right. Okay, Dale. Well, thank you very much for that update, and we look forward to seeing you early in June to tell us how things went in May.
You guys are quite welcome, and whenever I did use the term gentleman, I actually meant it.
Okay, we better not say anything more, Ken. We better just let him go. Okay.
So long, everybody.
Thanks, Dale. Thank you. Very good. Very good. Well, Ken, we're going to introduce a new series tonight. It's called COS Basics. And the gentleman that's heading up this series is John Ackerman, who also does John's Journal. And also, he is the host of our monthly roundtable. So,
Yeah.
John's very much involved in COS Indiana Live in a lot of different ways. So, I've asked John to put together to start creating a series of recordings, and these, right, Ken? These will be available to subscribers.
Yep.
In a set, and every time that John creates one, we'll add that to his set. We've also got a set of John's journals. The number he's created many of those.
Yes.
We've also got Gary Harbaugh's doing a set on the national debt, and we also have a set being created by Larry Hudson on our founders called Meet the Founders.
A lot of good meat there.
Yep. So our subscribers are going to have a lot to be able to enjoy from these individuals. So without further ado, let's show this first installment from John Ackerman on COS Basics, and let's hope this video plays good. Okay. Here we go.
John Ackerman for Convention of States, Indiana. With this video, I'm starting a brand new series called COS Basics. There are so many things that are basic to our movement, and I want to walk you through them one at a time. And the very first thing that I want to talk about is our core values. Our success as an organization depends upon the culture of this organization. And since values define culture, we're going to start by looking at and understanding the 6 core values of Convention of States. The very first one, and what this episode is all about, is preserving constitutional originalism. Now, what is that? Originalism is interpreting the Constitution based on its original public meaning when it was enacted. What were the writers trying to achieve? What did the original audience understand it to mean? And then, what does that mean in our context? How is it best applied today? Well, you know what? My background is in Christian ministry, and I had to get a master's degree, and I studied a lot of biblical interpretation, biblical understanding, biblical interpretation. And that's the same principle we use in understanding Scripture. What did the Scripture mean when it was first written? What did the authors intend to achieve? What did the original audience understand it to mean? And how is that best applied today? Same thing is true when talking about constitutional originalism. Now, the late great Supreme Court Justice Antonin Scalia published an article on originalism way back in 1988. And he found, and I'm going to quote from this article, he found that, quote, the central practical defect of non-originalism, in other words, the main problem with not holding to constitutional originalism, is fundamental and irreparable, again quoting from Scalia, the impossibility of achieving any consensus on what precisely is to replace the original meaning once it is abandoned. Think about that. We hold to constitutional originalism. What did it mean when it was written? And how do we understand it today? And Scalia said, the main problem with not holding to originalism is coming to a consensus on, if we don't hold to that meaning, what are we going to replace it with? Therefore, Convention of States works to restore limited constitutional government, federalism, individual rights, states' rights, and the separation of powers on the federal level. That is our number one core value, preserving constitutional originalism.
All right. All right.
Looks like it's going to
Well,
be an interesting
our
series.
video. Yeah, I think it's going to be a good series. Our video was a little. I don't know what creates that problem.
It came through. It came through pretty good on this end. It might just be, internet.
Did it?
Yeah, flurries.
Okay. Yeah, always is. All right. Well, let's move on to our main guest. Of course, Dale Tipton is always our main guest, but I'm getting myself deeply in trouble here, aren't I?
You sure are.
But seriously, though, our main guest tonight is a gentleman that's been in Convention of States for a long time, and I wanted to bring him on, Mr. Bud Cornwell. So let's bring on Bud. Hello, Bud.
Hey,
How
bud.
are you?
Good.
Glad to be here.
Well, glad to have you. Your name has been out there for a long time, and I had seen your name many times in Convention of States. I started in Convention of States about the same time you did, been some years ago, but I finally found you on your podcast, which we're going to touch on here a little bit. But I thought, man, we ought to bring this guy on and let people get to meet him. So, Bud, tell us a bit about your background and how you got the name Gunny and your COS story. You can kind of all wrap that into one package there. So, tell us about yourself.
Absolutely. So I spent 20 years in the Marine Corps, and I retired as a gunny, which is a E7 in the Marine Corps. And then after I retired, I became a government contractor, and then I became a government employee.
Okay.
So
Where are you originally from? I know you're in Alabama now, right?
yeah, I originally grew up in Louisiana.
Did you? Okay.
Joined the Marine Corps there, been all over the world, East Coast, West Coast, United States, and so forth.
What year? You don't mind me. What year did you join the Marine Corps?
1982.
82. Oh, okay.
And I retired in 2002.
Okay.
Yep. Now, that's very important as it relates to my upbringing. And it's just like you guys. The Constitution of America was in our hearts. It was taught to us when we were students in school. That's the difference. That is the key difference. That now what we're doing, and I'll continue my background, is we're backpedaling. We're trying to get the Constitution, get what it means back into the education system. That's the goal. And I think that's a primary goal of COS. Now, what I want to tell you is, why am I part of COS? It's a interesting adventure, as I would call it. I was a chief information officer for the VA hospital in Fayetteville, Arkansas. And I seen with my own eyes the destruction in 2013, 2014, what the government is doing and moving these people towards the fascism, the Marxism, the communism of this country. And my wife and I talked about this, and I said, we need to join some type of constitution organization. So that's what started it. And I was introduced to COS for the first time in August of 2013. I went to a meeting, and I thought this meeting was a constitutionalist meeting. What I found out was it was the state director of Arkansas, and he presented COS.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Now, I'm going to tell you, like many of us have done, going, what? No. I'm sorry. This can't happen. That was my first reaction, right? No, it's impossible. 3 or 4 months later, I reached back to the state director and said, I'm interested. And then I joined COS in December of 2013. Now, many of you viewers, especially COS leaders, can have a understanding of what I'm talking about. I joined COS 4 months after it started, right? And I was a district captain. I was a SIA. I was SCC. I did multiple different jobs because we didn't have the leaders at the time.
That's right.
I had eight people in my district.
Wow.
But before you get too far, tell me, if I could, you said when you first heard at this meeting, sounds
Right.
like it was like a town hall meeting. And you said, I heard you say, this is not possible. What was it? Can you tell me what was it that you didn't think was possible?
Absolutely, because I was in the government. Remember?
Oh, okay. Oh, I see.
Yeah, and I
Okay.
was like, yeah, the government's
You were
going to push
still
back on all of this crap.
Uh-huh.
But eventually I realized that the government is us. The Constitution is us. If we're going to change the government, it has to come from us. So that was the key. That is what caused me to join COS.
Okay. All right.
Now, after I joined, within 6 months, I left. I walked off the job as a chief information officer in the government. Give them 2-week notice. I was gone. I didn't care if I dug ditches. All I knew is I'm in the wrong place at the wrong time. So that's how I ended up in COS. So to finish the background part of it,
Yeah.
in 2016, I was saved by our Lord. I was baptized when I was 8, but I was actually saved in 2016. And then I became a minister, did that for a little while. And then eventually I came back to Arkansas, worked for a big church as an IT person. And then Jason, oh, by the way, during that time frame, I became the state director for Arkansas. And we passed COS in February of 2019. And then the organization called me up and said, we want you to be the technology service manager for COS. And that's how I started and became part of National. So May 15th.
So how many different roles have you played in Convention of States? I mean, so many of us that started early in Convention of States.
Sure.
We've gone through many different roles. How many different roles have you played in Convention of States?
Well, district captain, state information analyst, Facebook publisher,
Okay.
state convention or state communications coordinator.
But
Right.
they don't do much of anything
Right.
anymore.
Grassroots coordinator.
Okay.
This is all at the same time. Right. And I'm so thankful because of the dedication that our leaders have, that it allows them to focus. Dale, like you're talking about, how many different jobs? It's better just to have one, because that one job, along with the other ones, is what progresses us and succeeds to accomplish the mission. I came in when it was difficult, and it was extremely challenging in the early days. Matter of fact, I think I might have grew my district from 8 to maybe 50 the first year, right? Just to give you an example. So I'm proud. I'm just going to say, it's not about me. I'm proud about every COS leader, what you're doing, the effort that you present is the same effort that I did, but now it's focused, and you have the mission that is necessary for your leadership role. Which
so many.
I didn't have that.
So many of us, when we first started out in Convention of States, didn't have nearly the tools that we have available to us right now.
Yes,
we had to do our own training. We had to do our own. Our database that we used was not the best.
Nation Builder back in the day.
Yeah. I can never remember the name of that system, but that's right. That's right. It's no training, no training program. We were doing it all ourselves, but that's the way organizations get started. So somebody's got to step up and carry the ball. So
I want to
thank you for doing all that. Thank you.
I want to conclude this with what I have seen over the lifetime of COS is, for example, when I was an SIA, before I became part of the national team, I didn't participate in any of the meetings for national. I hated them. Absolutely. I didn't want to have anything to do with national.
Yeah.
It's Arkansas. We got our thing. Well, COS leadership has changed tremendously. And the thing about it is what is God driven in this organization is now we have servant leadership. See, that's the difference. It's not about us. It's about serving God. Think about what I'm telling you. What we're doing is we're trying to preserve the country that God has created. And many people, even on my podcast, going, what are you talking about? America is the only country on the face of the planet that has sent millions of people across this globe as missionaries to promote the gospel of Jesus Christ. There is no other reason to think that, America was created. It was created by God for that reason. Yeah. That's part of COS. This is what we do, is to have the God-fearing understanding of what has happened in our country, to correct it, to go back to the God-given rights that every person has in this country.
All right. But we're limited on time this evening, but I want to get to a couple other topics that I know you're interested in. And one of those is veteran activism. Being a retired military individual, a veteran, I know this is a topic that you're very, very concerned about, correct?
Oh, absolutely. I'm going to speak outside of the COS world for a second.
Okay.
What I have a hard time understanding, but not necessarily to the point of disconcert. I can understand how other veterans feel about what I'm going to say. I am openly speaking against our government. It's very tremendous for a veteran, especially a retired veteran, to do that, because they're concerned about their benefits, they're concerned about their paychecks, right? So I don't care. Take it away. Whatever you want to do. This is right. We have to stand up. There's 8 million veterans, active duty, retired, past veterans, etc., in this country. Can you imagine if we could energize these people to fight against all of this lack of the Constitution? I'm not talking about their benefits. I'm talking about the lack of the government, following the Constitution of the United States.
And we all, I'm a veteran myself, and we all took an oath to uphold that Constitution, didn't we?
Absolutely. Then why are we not standing up? Why are we not going in the streets and saying, why do you have a 3,000-page Constitution, today, when, it was only 40 pages back in the day,
Right.
You get it. But on top of that, I want to speak out for a great patriot. He's a retired Air Force. Rodney is the coalition director for the Veterans Coalition of COS. So if you're a veteran, you got to go in to your account in COS and join the Veterans Coalition. We have over 300,000 veterans that are now part of COS.
Really, 300,000. Wow.
Yes.
That's Rodney Huckleberry is
That's correct.
the individual you're talking about that heads up the COS Veterans Coalition. So, yes.
That's correct.
Yes. I didn't realize we had 8 million veterans in our country. That's I don't know that I've ever heard that number before. So that's good information.
Absolutely.
Good information.
Now, of course, a lot of them will probably go from 8 to 6 or 7 or maybe even 5 in the next 10 years, because all the Korean World War II veterans are all going to pass away.
Yeah. Have you gone on any of those? What do they call them? The airplane trips? Have you gone on one of those?
I didn't have to, because I lived in Fredericksburg, Virginia, and when that Liberty, I think it's Liberty Flight or Freedom Flight, something like that. When it came in, I would meet those people at the airport in Dulles.
Yeah.
So I didn't have to be on the flight, but yes, I was part of.
I did that here in our town. Have you ever done that, Ken? Have you ever met
However, what?
Gone to an airport and met one of those flights returning to?
Oh no, but no. I was part of a nursing home that down in Ohio that was putting together. They were doing a fundraising putting together all the veterans that were part of the nursing home to get them on a flight and on one of those trips. I was able to video that for them, and it was quite a thing to be a part of. Just to look at these veterans for the first time being able to fly down there and
Yeah.
go to the all the special places that certainly that they needed to visit. So yeah, it's quite a special thing.
It is. It is. It's quite impressive to see that.
Yeah.
Well, Bud, I want to keep moving along here. Tell us about your podcast, the Patriot COS. That's where I kind of that's where you caught my attention here most recently. So
Absolutely. So I started the podcast on my daughter's birthday in 2020. Just so you know.
okay.
I don't know why I picked that date, but I did. All right. So here's the bottom line is, I'm going from being a government employee, COS, so, moving towards this constitution, changes in our government. And then I started realizing that communism has a massive hold in our country. So I started researching, and then I found out that this is not new. It's not like a 2020 thing. This has been happening since the 30s.
Yes.
And so what I wanted to do is create this podcast to give anyone that wants to listen the understanding of what we're actually dealing with. People think that, we're dealing with the economy, we're dealing with, the issues of politics, all of this. This is the back end of all this. What we're actually dealing with is we're dealing with the infiltration of communism in our country through our education system, through the border situation. These are the things that we're dealing with. So I started the podcast to try to educate people in this concept. Now I've grown in the last 4 years. Now my major effort is to bring on, like we're talking about, veterans. There is a lot of veterans out there that are not happy. Okay, let's start talking. Let's start going on the air, right?
Good point. Good point. Yeah.
And talking to your families, talking to your cousins, talking to your neighbors. I'm going to leave this at this. This is why the Patriot cause is here. Very simple. If a veteran that has defended the Constitution of America, whether they were in Vietnam, Korea, World War II, Afghanistan, Iraq, we have committed our lives to the Constitution, not to the political forces of this country. We have a God-given duty to approach our citizens that do not understand the Constitution or don't understand how important it is towards the freedom of your life. And last but not least, there's an organization that I'm part of. It's called Veterans Defending Liberty. I think it's veteransdefendingliberty.com or something like that. Just go check it out. And he's a retired Marine, Lance Corporal, Army Captain. And interesting, I'll leave it at this. I was in Hawaii in the 80s, and he was an OBGYN, and he left 2 months before my son was delivered. So
Okay.
So he didn't have the opportunity to deliver my son, but he has started this organization. He's got lots of generals, lots of politicians that are supporting this cause. This is the Patriot cause.
All right. Everybody, be sure
More
to
people out there. Yep.
tune in to the Patriot cause. Well, listen, we're going to wrap it up. I want to wrap it up on a topic talking about people talking to each other. Let's talk about, and I'm going to bring our state director in on this conversation, and that's the COS Ham Radio Group. And I know, Bud, I know you're an important part of this. And I'm going to bring Dale back in too, because I think he's kind of an important part of this project too. Am I right?
Absolutely. He's the man.
So now, and we're going to have Dale come on our broadcast on May 20th, I believe it is. Yeah, May 20th. And Dale's going to update us on the formation of this group. So between the two of you, want to kind of give us an idea of what this is all about?
You know, this is what happens when you have dinner with Mark Meckler. Stuff just happens. It just kind of happens. And I've told people as we discuss this that you think about things that are meant to be, or that are inspired, or that are God directed, or whatever. That's kind of how I feel about this, because as I sit here, I can tell you that as of October of last year, I had absolutely no interest in ham radio, no interest in electronics, antennas, books, licenses, and all this other stuff that happens. And then lo and behold, we had this dinner with Mark back in October and talked about the concern that he had for the COS family overall. The fact that you got a bunch of hardworking Americans that are doing their very best in trying times, and there's a general concern, I think, in the country that that we could get hurt here. That we're at risk. Similar to the way things, even worse than it was back at 9/11. And so we got to talking about communication and how people talk and they depend upon cell phones that are likely to crash and fail. And then he mentioned something about knowing some ham radio people back in the day, as we probably all did. Old men that sit around these radios and talk back and forth, but they didn't depend upon the modern telephone technology and that kind of thing. And lo and behold, after the meeting was over, things started to percolate. And by, I guess, about January, right, Bud, we were kind of sketching together what a ham coalition might look like. Because of the 750,000 plus ham operators in the United States currently, that are people just like all of us. They're like-minded people. They're Constitution-loving people. A lot of them have not heard about Convention of States, and so that's one thing. But then secondly, what if we need an extra method of communication in the future? Could we be able to patch together a communications network that would allow us to exchange information and spread news and that kind of thing? And so, Bud jumped in. He developed the website, or the web page for us, and that kind of thing, and is kind of the technical brains behind the scene for this thing.
Bud, are there a lot of veterans that are ham radio operators, Bud?
Well, that's a good question when you talk about a lot. I would think, like myself, I was in aviation electronics, doing communication radios for the aircraft. So I kind of got more involved in that, but I'm not sure that a lot of the veterans as a whole is part of it. However, what I do know is Dale is doing a great job of promoting with Mark Meckler to bring in those veterans that are part of the ham radio community. And now they have the ability to not only do it as a hobby or be part of, the emergency relief per se. Now they can come into a coalition that Dale has started to collect a lot of those veterans. Matter of fact, I Dale, if you don't notice, there was another person that joined a couple of days ago. He was a corporal in the Marine Corps in 1968 in Vietnam. And
Wow.
he joined the coalition, and he says, "Oh, I got so much respect for you." I'm like, "What?" I'm just a gunny, you know. Yeah, so it's
Okay.
drawing some tremendous people.
All right. Well, Dale, I'm gonna let you go, because we're gonna have you back on the 20th, and you can give us a lot more information on this. All right.
Will do. Thanks
Thanks,
again.
Dale.
So long.
Thank you.
You know,
All
Dale,
right,
Dale,
bud.
before we move on, we've had a question, Gunny, that
Okay.
people want to know where they can find your podcast. Can you give us some information on where your podcast can be found? I think you said it's on Newscasters, but is there a link that
Yes.
people can find you?
Well, it's on Newscasters. It's on any podcast app that you have on your phone. You know, whether it's Spotify, Apple, you know, Google Play, etc. I also have a Rumble channel. I do not do YouTube. I'm on Rumble, and most of you understand why I'm not part of YouTube. Yeah, I'm not going to have millions of people watch because I'm not on YouTube, but that's okay.
So they can just search your podcast on Rumble or
That's correct.
any
If
other
they want,
podcast. Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, guys, that's a wrap for tonight. But thank you very, very much for giving us your time this evening, and
Absolutely.
we may have you back again, and
Sure.
especially to talk about the ham radio group, to see how that develops. So, Bud, thank you once again for being with us tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. It's an absolute pleasure.
Thank you.
See you, Penny.
All right, Ken, let's wrap it up this evening then.
All right.
And let me get back to the banners that I want to get to here. Well, our next broadcast is going to be on the 13th, a week from tonight. And we're going to have, as a matter of fact, we're going to have Murray Edwards on, who heads up this the newscaster studio, the studio that we are part of, as well as Bud's podcast. So we're going to have Murray on, give us an update on that. And we're going to also have Debbie Stewart on. And Debbie's going to be talking about the World Health Organization, one of her favorite topics. So that ought to be very, very interesting. Also want to mention that our next roundtable is actually going to be on the 27th, which is Memorial Day, and we'll be doing a best of that evening. So Ken, we got you and I have the night off there for the next roundtable.
There you go.
Okay. Also, just want to mention that we've got a couple new podcast episodes out there right now. And that is episode number 12, which is Christy Stutzman. We've our guest on our podcast. And episode 13, Victoria Mooring, one of our outstanding region captains. And those podcasts are available on Spotify.com if you are interested in checking those out. Also want to mention that, where have I got that? Oh, okay.
I was there's some people looking for Gunny's podcast name again. I was going to look that up for him. So.
Oh, okay. It's the Patriot COS, the Patriot COS. And so anyone that viewing tonight that has a question or comment about our broadcast, drop us an email at raiseyourvoicecos@gmail.com. That's raiseyourvoicecos@gmail.com. So Ken, I think unless you've got something else that we need to address, I think that'll be a wrap for tonight.
No, but I think the time went fast and we didn't have enough time to get it all in. So we're going to have him back, I'm sure.
Yeah. There's some more that we didn't cover, but we're always we'll have him back again. And very interesting guy. Very interesting guy. Done a lot. Still doing a lot.
Yep.
So that'll be a wrap for us, Ken. Have a good evening. And we'll wrap up this evening's broadcast with our favorite Mark Meckler video, The Day I'll Quit Fighting. So here we go.
I struggle to empathize with people who would give up. It doesn't make sense to me. Sam Adams said, for those of you who prefer safety and security over liberty, over the animating fight for liberty, I hope that you enjoy licking the hands that feed you. May your chains rest lightly upon you, and may posterity forget that you are our countrymen. Like, do you understand that your kids and you are sentencing your kids and your grandkids and your friends' kids and your neighbors' kids to a lifetime of slavery and servitude, literally, of fear, of living in the darkness, but never, ever, never give up. George Washington lost the majority of his battles that he fought in the American Revolution. If you read his writings, if you read the letters where he was writing to Congress asking for money and troops, he was saying, we're losing. I don't have the troops I need. I don't have the supplies I need. Did he quit? What about the guys on the beach at Normandy? Like, what did they do? Did they just quit? Oh, there's, a lot of guys are dying around me. It's really bad. It looks really dismal. Those cliffs are huge. Machine gun fire raining down on us. And it's too hard. We should just quit. Thank God those people didn't quit. If they had, where would we be? I get discouraged for sure. And I will quit fighting at some point. And that point is when the first shovel of dirt hits the top of my box 6 feet down.